Good evening. I will now call the meeting into order, and we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible.
Student Liaison, Ty Messier.
Good evening, school committee members, Superintendent Brand, Assistant Superintendent Ramsey, and Ms. Corsi. It's a pleasure to be with you all today, and I'm excited to share some updates with our school community. First off, the Skills USA competitions are in full swing, and we're eagerly watching our students showcase their talents. We have 113 students competing in 31 different events over the next couple of weeks. And we'd like to give a huge shout out to Mrs. Pyros for organizing this extremely complex schedule, and good luck to all the time. As we celebrate National Women's Month, we had 3 outstanding female students recognized by the National Center for Women in Information Technology. Kira Enos and Madison Stowicki were named winners of their regional award, and Emma McCoy was a runner-up. These students show strong leadership and use their skills to improve the world around them. And also, please note that the National Honor Society Paint Night has been rescheduled to March 28th, and we're looking forward to the fun and creative event. Our class committees have come together to revive the Battle of the Classes. This is an exciting event, and it will take place this Thursday from 5 to 7 in the Ramos Gym. It has a wide range of activities planned, and it's sure to be a fantastic fun. And for the winter sports, the season is now over, and here are the final standings for some of the teams. The boys basketball team qualified for the Open State Tournament. They lost the first round to Central 84-69, and their record was 10 wins and 14 losses. Our girls basketball team played an incredible season, but fell short in the Division II state championship, losing to Narragansett 60-40. They also qualified for the Open State Tournament and lost a nail-biter against LaSalle, and they ended with a record of 16-7. The wrestling team earned strict 5th place at states and their 18th in the New England Championships. And even though most of their seasons are over, Charles Phillips is heading to nationals at the end of the month. Our swimming team had another undefeated season, placing 3rd in divisionals and finishing 4th in the state championships. Our gymnastics co-op had a great season, and the senior Carter Bissett Warwick competed at regionals and won the Midge Palmer Award. And the coach Victoria Lombardi was honored with Coach of the Year. The indoor track and field team had a remarkable season. Sophomore Jack Pollock made it to the New England Championships, and he ran an impressive 6.59 in the 55-meter dash, placing him amongst the top finishers in Rhode Island. On the ice, the girls hockey co-op finished with a record of 4-11, and congratulations to Sydney Olson for playing in the All-State game and being selected to the All-Division team. And the boys hockey co-op ended with a 6-13 record. And our esports team had a great season, winning the state championship for Rocket League. And James Curtin claimed the All-State champion for EPHS. Looking ahead, the spring sports are finally starting. And right now, Unified Basketball is playing against Juanita Sanchez. And that's it. Thank you for your time. I hope you guys have a great meeting.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item.
PTO, PTA, EPLAC reports.
Next item.
Superintendent's report.
I'd like to start with our fiscal year 23 audit presentation. Sorry, Dan.
Good evening. My name is David Hanson from Clifton Larson Allen. I was the engagement leader on the 2023 financial statement audit for the city and school district. I believe everybody has a copy of the presentation here. So I'm just going to kind of go through everything we have here. The first slide that is just a disclosure report for our purposes. The agenda, we're just going to go through the scope of the engagement, our processes for the audit, our reporting results, a couple of highlights from the financial statements, and required communications, and just our contact information in case there's any questions after the fact. So the scope of our engagement, we're engaged for the fiscal year 23 audit, October 31 year end, and the federal single audit report. So we conduct our audit in two ways under GAAP. So that's generally accepted accounting principles, and our audit is conducted under GAS, so generally accepted auditing standards. So we express opinions on whether the basic financial statements are presented in accordance with GAAP. And also under GAGAS, which is generally accepted governmental auditing standards, where we provide a report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. So the next slide, page 6 here, we take a risk-based approach where we look at the school district's internal controls, different revenue recognition standards, liability completeness testing, significant estimates. These are generally pension and OPEB estimates, and new accounting standards, which there was a new lease standard that the school district implemented in fiscal year 23. So our reporting results under GAS, we issued an unmodified opinion, which means that we have reasonable assurance that the financial statements are not materially misstated in any manner. So those basic financial statements include the governmental activities, business type activities, each government fund, so that includes the school unrestricted fund, each major proprietary fund, and then the aggregate remaining funds, which all of the school grants fall into those. So our reporting results on our GAS report, we had an internal control finding for a significant deficiency over financial reporting. This was related to the timeliness of the close from year end to getting our information for audit purposes. And then our report on compliance and laws and regulations, grants and contracts, there was no instances of non-compliance or other matters noted. Now for financial statement highlights, it's on page 10. We looked at the school unrestricted fund here. So on the total fund balance for the school unrestricted fund at year end, it was 4.7 million. This represented a $56,000 increase from the prior year. And then the fund balance breakout, the 1.1 million was represented as non-spendable. That represents prepaid insurance for the school district, and the remaining 3.6 million is committed for education. Now the next page, the school unrestricted operating results. So expenditures exceeded revenue by 53 million for the year, and then the total operating transfer from the city was 53 million, which resulted in the net change in fund balance of the 56,000. The next page here, this is just a screenshot of RSI 6. This is the ERS plan, so the school district participates in the state plan. So this is just one of the large liabilities that it's actually on the city's books, but the state participates in it. So I wanted to highlight that as items that the school district participates in. And then the next is this is the school district's OPEB plan. So this shows the total liability and the net liability, and you can see it from adoption of the act in 2017, showing those valuations. So the school district utilizes an actuary, and that's where we base off the valuation of the long-term liability. Next, budgetary highlights. The school budget can be found on page 92 of the financial statements. The school unrestricted fund revenues were over budget by 445,000. And the school unrestricted fund expenditures were over budget by 388,000, netting into that surplus that we discussed. Now, required communications that we have to make governance aware of. So our purpose is to communicate the results of our audit. We didn't have any changes in the scope of our engagement throughout. I mentioned earlier there was a new accounting policy related to GASB 96. This is software leases that was adopted in 2023. It didn't have any effect on the school district. Disclosures were neutral, consistent, and clear. Other estimates, as I mentioned earlier, the pension and OPEB are large liabilities that we rely on actuarial data for those estimates. Difficulties, we have to express if we had any difficulties with management. We did not have any difficulties or disagreements with management throughout the process. And other items that we note is the management representation letter, supplemental information, and we also issued a management letter to the city. And we highlight that on the next page on 17 here. So that this management letter is just a recommendation for the school district. It was related to fund deficits. The school does not have a fund deficit in the school unrestricted fund, but we encourage the school to make a formal plan for if they were to have a deficit going forward and for some of their grant funds. So that was just a best practice recommendation that there's some written. And then our contact information, Vanessa is the engagement principal, and David Hanson, the engagement manager. So if you have any questions now or if anything comes up, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Through the chair.
Questions now?
Are these, if it's a specific question to our district, do you refer them to Craig or to those gentlemen here. So I guess, my question would be, as far as, pensions and OPEB liabilities, what are we gonna do to mitigate those going forward? Also, that would be more specific to Craig.
So the pension rates, the ERSRI and the MERS, that is set by state. So we pay into that as the rates change each July 1st. They tell us what our rate is that we have to pay for the teachers that had over 20 years as of January 2012. They have their own rate. Everyone else after that has their own rate. So that's set aside. In terms of the OPEB, we have gradually made progress over the years, right? So I think we're funded at 46.22%, which was a little bit of a drop over the previous year. That has been there's a line item within the budget that we have that we usually try to put in funds, and as the end of the year comes in, if I know that we're going to have some extra funds, then we will make a deposit into the OPEB account. Our OPEB account is managed by through the Interlocal Risk Management Trust, where we belong, and so they have a fund manager that manages all of the investments for us. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you for your time. Again, if you have any questions that arise after, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Next item.
Evening. Facilities report for this month. At the high school, the clock tower issues are being worked on by the contractor responsible. They have repaired the lighting issues to both the clock tower and the EP symbol on the gym side of the building. And they will return again this past Monday to finish up the wiring work required by the electrical inspector, and they have another expected to return at least one more time. Out at the baseball field, we have selected the area where we will be installing a composting bathroom. The director of finance and I have met with a distributor, city engineering, DPW, to get the execution and installation on their schedule. The product is projected to have a 14-week lead time. This will take place in the summer. At Martin Middle School, the middle school is progressing well. The curtain wall and glazing has been installed in the cafeteria and media center. Masonry continues around the building, along with preparation for cement fiber panels. Inside the building, sheetrock and taping continues, with rough trades finishing up on the second and first floors. April will continue the start of the next phase of construction inside the existing building, with the construction work in the gymnasium, auditorium, and band room. This work is expected to continue into November when the new school is turned over. At Riverside Middle School, the maintenance team has finished the work in the old freezer area. This is the former area that is now an office for Chartwell staff, along with an entrance into the new freezer unit. The new unit is now in full operation. Exterior work is to be completed as the paving the ramp and the landscaping this spring. Refrigeration units that are now extra at Riverside have been distributed throughout the districts and buildings in need of replacement. At Waddington, over February break, work was done to get a timeline of window installation. One window was installed. Electrical work required for the second phase this summer was completed by Sally Mac. Contractors will return during April vacation to get a dump on more items. Preparation for this summer's work is now in full swing, along with the new drainage system that will be installed to combat water mitigation issues. Some other notes. PA system wiring was run at Francis, Oro, and White Neck over February break. Both system finishes are to take place at participating buildings this summer. Gateway Roofing completed the insurance repairs to the administration building facade that was damaged by a delivery truck. Work was completed on February 27th. Our maintenance crew has made repairs to steam lines at Hennessy Elementary School. The age of the steam lines underground is starting to become an issue. The lines are located in tunnels under the older section of the building, leading to confined space work and I'm looking to the future for possible replacement of the HVAC system, heat pump cassette units that we put into Waddington that will provide heating and air conditioning to the building. Pricing, engineering, and timelines are being sourced for our live conditions. On Friday, February 28th, we conducted custodial interviews for our 4 vacant positions. We have filled all the open spots, which were 2 at the high school, 1 at Riverside, and 1 at Open Pre-K. Lastly, with the positions that were vacated, I would like to wish Jim Watson and Bill Soares a happy retirement. I thank you for your time with the district, and I wish you the best of luck in the future. Enjoy retirement.
Thank you.
Dave, I just got one question for him. Danny, the storage, what we use as a storage in the office now, that's completely done. That's what I'm saying. The wood, everything's all painted, everything, the ceiling and stuff's done.
Rim, floor, wax. We got a cork board in there, desk in there.
Nice. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Quickly, just to go over highlights. First, fiscal year 24 for us is still not closed. We have some outstanding invoices from DCYF from September and October of 24. That despite my email that went unresponded to in December for the invoices, and over the weekend email and included the Auditor General, who is trying to help with the situation as well. So we still don't have a closed year yet. So still very, very cautious about where. But I was hoping to give you a number tonight, but we still don't have bills that we're waiting. In terms of fiscal year 25 that we're in, obviously when you're looking at some of these line items, you're probably saying, wow, we're kind of high. Like I know over the past couple months, you've asked about the substitutes, right? So last month from the substitute line item, it was 339,000, and now we're up to 480. So that's going to be a line that we'll be having to take a closer look at. Hopefully within the salaries line item, we're going to see some savings that will hope to offset that. Similar to the legal line item, that's already getting up there. We're already above what we budgeted. So we'll just have to make sure that other line items that we're keeping an eye on that. Revenue seems to be in a good spot. Are there any questions?
Greg, does DCYF have any kind of deadline that, or any type of expectation as to when?
It's frustrating. So what happens is they will dump, and I mean dump invoices to the superintendent that are about 6 months old. And so then special education has to go through. We look at the attendance records to make sure that we're paying the accurate bill. But twice a year is generally, and last year for the September and October bills, we paid those in February, which means we got them in January. So they're already late. They said, well, we're having some staffing problems. I get that, but I got to close out my fiscal year, and the Auditor General is asking for it. So, but the Auditor General has been a help, and I'm sure that within a relatively short amount of time that we're going to have those. Because between Friday night and Saturday morning, there was a flurry of emails from the Auditor General and DCYF to me. So,
Thank you. Any other questions for Craig?
thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item.
Policy Committee Report, Building Access Policy, first read.
Any questions with regards to this policy?
Through the chair, I'd appreciate an opportunity from the policy committee or representatives on the school committee that are part of the policy committee, maybe that could walk us through this policy.
Basically, with this policy, we're just defining what visitors need to do upon entry, who can accompany them. That's during normal business hours and then after business hours. And then, and at the same time, we want to make sure that we protect everyone's privacy, both the students and teachers and other employees. And then we also define some, well, briefly, basically define some disciplinary actions that could take place. And then, we're going to review this policy annually, provide any training if necessary. And then we also made sure that, it's in compliance with RIDE regulations, Rhode Island general laws, FERPA. Andrew's also reviewed the policy as well. If you have any specific questions, I can try to answer them.
Through the chair. This is for first read, so I'd just like to add, I've mentioned it a couple times and I'm going to mention it again. When a school committee member has complete access to a school building during school days, during times where there are children there, and has no designated area, they can just walk around. I really think that the 5 of us here, or the bodies that precede us, should have a background check. Because currently the school committee does not have any kind of law that we have to, but any volunteer of any school does. And I don't think we're any different than any other volunteer when we're in their buildings. So I really believe that before any of us have any access to the schools, as in children around without any accompaniment, I do believe that we should all have background checks on file within the district. That's what I would like to add. I also would like to add some kind of, the school committee is a governing body of 5. None of us act as one individual. We act as 5 people. So none of us have anything above and beyond anybody else here. And the only problem that I have is disciplinary action without writing it and explaining what the disciplinary action is. It's really just out there. And without a policy or procedure to be put in place by the 5 of us, by voting the members, you're kind of leaving that open, that, loss of access privileges. Well, I think it needs to be a little tighter on that. And for the respect of the principals, teachers, and staff in the schools, I think that we need to respect the school operations and protocols about just walking into a school. I am one that used to go into the schools all the time, and there are people in this room right now that have witnessed me doing that. But I was always welcome as a volunteer into what I was doing. And I don't think just walking around a school without a designated reason during school hours. A year ago, Ryan and I went in specifically for an item because it had come up in a school committee meeting about disruption and safety. So Ryan and I had that, we went to the high school, we explained why we were there. We stayed for that period of time that we were there, and then we left. I just am not cool with the idea that we're just going to walk into schools during normal business hours. This is just my opinion. Just because we have a badge, I just don't think it's interrupting education. And I just think that we need to put some kind of line in there that says that we will respect the school operations during school business hours. I totally understand going into school buildings. It definitely fosters relationships with principals and staff and other students, and it also gives us an opportunity to look at what's going on and makes us better informed when we make decisions. But I also understand that us walking through a school building during school hours unannounced can disrupt a school and teachers. I know that for a fact. So I'm just wanting to give you my 2 cents on this, and hope that you will take into consideration adding those things to the policy.
Thank you. Ryan, did you have a follow-up question or?
Yeah, actually, I mean, sorry, Tony,
Good.
but just kind of like going off of Jess's last point there. So essentially, I think that there could be additional language that is allowing school leadership to have like discretion. If there's standardized testing taking place, a school committee member is aware of that, they enter a school building, and there could be an allowance for the principal to request the school committee member, hey, we're participating in the standardized testing right now. Like, it'd be great if you came back in an hour or the next day, set up that appointment time. I think that if there was some sort of, I don't know if language needs to be in here, potentially though, to, allow for the school leadership to make those requests of visitors. It wouldn't be beneficial to the student body or teachers to have folks entering a classroom or walk around the hallway while there might be certain activities or events of study taking place that it would cause for a disruption.
Thank you. Tony?
Yes, I would support, with the background check. Years ago, we always had one. So I would support that. We could put that into a motion or something, because like I said, we've always had that. I know it's a volunteer thing, especially, going into schools, with the kids there. So I'm okay with that. The only issue that I have, and it's my belief, is the one that says, where school committee members aren't allowed to go beyond the locked door. Can somebody explain that to me, Tony, what that is? After hours, by the way, after hours. Because I feel that's a hindrance on what I bring to this school district for many years, that now, for 2 years, I sat up here with the previous school committee, and we weren't even really allowed in the building. I call it without a babysitter. Now, here's the flip side of the coin. We're allowed in the building, but we can only walk in the corridors.
Well, I think that was put in place, if there was mainly because if there was a privacy concern, what if there was, a child's, IEP out on a teacher's desk or some other type of document that really shouldn't be seen, or some other type of private information. I think that was one of the biggest concerns with.
My concern with that would be then a teacher shouldn't be leaving it open, because we just hired 3 new individuals. We don't know nothing about them. They get access into that room every night of the week. So, and I talked to the chairman of, Jess has been up here for 13 years. I've been up here for 13 years. If we can't be trusted in this community, we have a serious problem. We have a serious problem. And so I look at it, I have my beliefs why these items, some of these items are being put in there to hinder what I will continue to do, because what I find in my career is obstacles and overcoming them. That item there was put in there, as far as I'm concerned, because like I just explained, the flip side, 3 new hires that are going to be walking around our buildings. We really don't know much about them. I'm sure they went through all the background checks and stuff like that. But to say that the school committee is allowed to go into a building but can't go anywhere if a classroom door is locked, I'm not going to get into why I believe that was put in there. I'll bring up some of that under the agenda items that I put on here, and I'll explain why that would create a big hindrance to me, bringing the defects in these buildings, which we continue to have going forwards. And as individuals that's tried, would be their third year trying to prevent the public knowing about them. And, I'm not gonna sit here and allow that to take place.
Tony, real quick, when you're conducting your walkthroughs in the evening time after hours, how many locked doors do you actually encounter?
I've only went on one, which was about a month and a half ago when we talked about that. I haven't been through it since then until we put a policy together. Me and you had talked about that.
Were there any locked doors when you went through?
Yes.
Okay.
Because all of the high school, once them doors shut, they lock the custodians, unlock them all, leave them open as they clean them. I think that might be an indication of that classroom is clean. Like if you, I'm not sure for sure, but if you go up there, the doors may be all open after they clean the classroom, they close them. That would indicate that it's clean.
Right, because I did a walkthrough with you, not a planned one, but we walked through Riverside, if you remember.
Yeah.
I think there was one locked door.
Yeah.
That was it. The rest of them were all open.
Right.
So I don't think that is a hindrance.
Oh, there's a hindrance in that boiler room at that high school that I'm gonna get in that boiler room very quick.
Is that door locked?
Oh, it's absolutely locked.
Okay.
Our boiler rooms are totally disgusted. They should be locked, but they're not locked. So there's a lot of issues we have there. Boiler rooms are supposed to be always locked. Every time I go by a boiler room, it's not locked. I don't know why. But that's a safety issue. So there's a lot of other things that we should be focusing on in this district. And we sit up here and make it look like, we're all bad guys. I don't think, and I agree with a lot of what you have said, but I don't think, or if anybody can explain, have any of us done any of this? Just so the public knows, I don't think any of us have been talked about a superintendent by disrupting the school or anything like that. Yeah, maybe I'm speaking out of course here, but
Again, through the chair, I see the doors locked as a different reason. I would assume that teachers leave stuff of their own belongings. As a former teacher, you leave it, it's safe, you lock it, you go home, you know that the custodian that works in your room, or you know who's cleaning your room, you don't know that anybody else is coming in your room. And if something ends up missing, you're gonna speak to our facilities director the next day. You're not gonna go through the school committee members that happen to be walking through the building that day. But Tony, it does say, and again, I know that the superintendent didn't have anything to do with this policy, but it does say right here that with prior approval from the superintendent, and I don't see her saying no. So I think that if you specifically wanted to go into certain areas and you just said to her, listen, I like to go in some locked areas of the school, I can't see her saying no, especially since we're talking about this in public right now. But I have walked many of the buildings with you many years ago prior. Now when I go through, it's usually with somebody that knows a little more construction than I do. But I don't want this to be a building access policy for construction reasons only. I want this to be a building access policy for education too. And that's the part that I'm seeing. And that's the part that I can see disruptions, and that bothers me. It bothers me, but I also like the fact that it says after hours. I mean, we can go into the school building, you're telling me, at any point of the night? Because it does not specify in this policy. It just says after hours. There's no time, anything.
Our badges don't work after 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock p.m. So when the custodians leave, if we're still in the building, which I can't imagine why we would be, we would exit then.
So I think we should put that in here, that we need to be out of the building by a certain time.
no, and I agree with you, just like I said, and I stand, this year, the only time that I went through the building during bell hours was with Danny. He actually took the truck up in the back, not out. So, I understand what you're saying, just to disrupt it, what Ryan said. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, and I'm not saying that I want this, but my focus is the conditions of, once again, we're exceeding $1 billion in assets. And I believe these issues are being put in here to keep certain situations squashed so the public does not know about it. And that's my belief. That's because if like I said, in the last 3 years, never been in a building during bell hours or anything. These things all keep popping up because of situations that, I'll find other ways to make it happen. But like I said, it's just, it's issues that I do this for a living. I enjoy what I do. Jess, we've done a lot. Like I said, I mentioned it, Jim, we painted entire classrooms. We did so much things 5, 6, 7 years ago. Without any of these interruptions, never had a situation with any of them. Painted entire gyms. We had a great community, massive community efforts. My goal this coming spring was put that back together with all of us up here. We went 5, 6 years without that. And to me, it looks like, is it worth getting involved with that if everybody's hands are going to be tied?
Of course it is, because we just communicated when we did all that. We communicated that we were doing it. We didn't just show up and say, let's paint these schools. We communicated. You're right. No one stopped us, but we communicated that we were going to do it. And we had custodians helping us, or a custodian helping us. But I mean, you're right. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. But we had open communication. We didn't just do it and show up. We let them know. Most of the time, Tony, we did. Okay. There are some things in our past that we just did to do. And I've learned from my mistakes.
No, some things just we did, other things we just showed up and did,
Correct. But I mean, we've always communicated what we were going to do. Every playground build, every painting of sidewalks, which is what I was thinking of. We always communicated what we were doing, and it was never turned away, because, to be honest, who's going to turn something that away, Tony? We had some great times doing that stuff. That's not going to be turned away, just like this won't be turned away from the superintendent. If you said, listen, Dr. Fran, I want into the boiler, she's going to let you into the boiler. She is that person. Yeah, but you're right. In the last 3 years, I haven't said, let me into the boiler. I have not. But at Waddington, I have, because, the water and everything like that. But I was always accompanied by someone, because I'm going to be honest with you, that's a scary place down there. But it's not a place that I would just say, oh, let me go to. But I think differently than you. I'd say, let me go into let's look at the blinds at Silver Spring. Let's go look at, I agree that, but if we just communicate what we're doing, then we can communicate to the public what we're doing. And then in turn, we won't have to have a policy that is written again, I apologize. I just think there needs to be a little more substance here.
Oh, no, like I said, and I agree with Jess, but like I said, and I'll say that the public will know. Because like I said, I have to focus in my career to go around obstacles. These are being put as obstacles in my way, and I'll find ways to get around it.
Through the chair. I don't think we're trying to restrict you. Have you been told that you can't get into a particular area? Because you could just bring it to us and we can force that. I mean.
No, it's not, because I talked to David, about the last time we went in there till we come up with a policy.
Right.
To see, so I haven't been in doing anything part of it. When I mentioned to you about, what team, I haven't been in there. Me and Dave talked about it. I said I won't until we come up with, a policy that is fair across the board. That's.
If you run into a situation where, for whatever reason, you're restricted access, just please communicate it with us, and we can certainly all do something about that. That the intent is not to keep you from accessing whatever location you need. And the other thing to keep in mind is some of these restricted points may have, other reasons why you may want to restrict access to everyone, whether it be you have to wear proper PPE or there's certain safety measures that need to be in place. If you go into a boiler room or electrical room.
The only spot in the high school, or I would say hopefully in any of our schools, is the IT rooms, because there's just anybody bumps something in there. First of all, I don't know much about it, but I know those rooms are really, really off limits. Something goes wrong with one wire in them rooms, it shuts the whole high school down. I would never see myself going into that room. Custodians don't. I think there's only Danny might have a key. So there's a lot of issues that, and it's just, and I respect everybody that sits up here, but at the end of the day, it's just my belief.
No, yeah, but we could certainly work towards getting you whatever access you need if that becomes an issue.
Thank you.
Next item. Oh,
Did
no.
you want me to email you my,
Yeah, please. Next item.
Building committee report.
Starting at Martin Middle School, some of the project milestones. We're at 40% complete of phase one. The third floor is ready for paint. Sheetrock and installed taping started on the second floor. The curtain wall of the library and media center cafeteria is complete. The duct bank install for permanent power is restarted. So we'll look ahead for the next 3 months. The facade finishes will be ongoing. Interior drywall and tape ongoing. Interior finishes will start. Rough mechanical, electrical, fire protection, and plumbing is ongoing. And some of the April work, they will be looking to get into the band room and take that over. And we'll be starting some of the auditorium. At Waddington, during the February work, Sully Mack was able to complete some of the electrical work for phase two. And they installed one window as a mock-up. The look ahead is the moisture site mitigation with the DEM submission, which goes out tomorrow. The code compliance for the library offices and the ongoing coordination in preparation for phase two. And we will have the rooftop unit curbing going in during April break, and they're figuring about 5 more windows. Lastly, at Riverside Middle School, the sprinkler adjustments in the media center were completed, and the 6-month warranty walkthrough was completed. And a look ahead for warranty period on the 11-month walkthrough would take place on July 14th.
Danny, just a question. When you say one window, that's the bump out, right? That creates, it wasn't just
It's
one
the,
window, right?
Yeah, the first floor on the bus. It's the first window it's actually the front window.
That's what saying, like
Yeah,
that, they
First bump
they
out.
finished the whole bump out, because when we were there
Yeah,
last
that
time, it
was-
was the 3 windows on the bump out, okay? And just, to follow up a little bit from the building committee last night, can you see if you could get us the engineering report for the water issues that we have there with, at the end of the bottom of that ramp?
Yep.
I think that came in, and then, because that's gonna be an issue, because we may not have money for that portion of that. So that's why I like, if you can get copies to everybody to,
Yeah, no
with
problem.
that engineering report, and we can go from there. And then I'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, so we can discuss that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All set. Thank you, Danny. Next item.
Public comment.
Kim Morado, did you still want to speak? Or you all set? Okay, thank you. Libby Merrill?
Good evening.
Good
Hi,
evening.
I'm Libby Merrill. I'm a resident of Ward 3, and I'm a parent of a public elementary school student in the East Providence School. So I just wanted to make a very quick comment. I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude to Attorney General Nerona and Ride Commissioner Angelica Infante Green for their recent guidance protecting LGBTQ plus students' rights and supporting diversity initiatives in Rhode Island schools. I appreciate their continued commitment to clarity during this time of uncertainty and affirming that Rhode Island schools should maintain the current practices and be welcoming to students of all identities and all gender expressions and sexuality. And thank you also to the members of this committee who have stated that they plan to maintain the current policies and collaborate to make East Providence schools a welcoming place for all students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tabitha watching?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to share a few comments about the policy that we just discussed this evening. Two things I wanted to reiterate, Jessica, your comments about this policy is not just for construction, it's also not just for school committee, right? It's for all community members who might be interested in visiting our schools and to protect teachers, students, etc. I think that's important to highlight because felt like the conversation was a little one-sided, right? And so it's not just about school committee members. Mr. Ferrer, you did bring up an important concept about trust, right? And I know that's important to you, but as an employee of this district and a voter, it's important to me too. So trust is a two-way street, right? And if school committee members, elected officials want to be trusted as elected officials, I think you also have to trust the employees that work for you. And that's all I wanted to say because I feel like right now in this community, we lack trust and we lack respect for teachers, for administrators, and that's becoming pretty obvious, especially on social media. So I just really wanted to drive home the fact that if we want a culture of respect, it's a two-way street and we have to cultivate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Discussion action items. Discuss bus routes, Mr. DeSimon. Basically, I was looking to, I had some questions in regards to busing. Do we use routing software and, you know, to optimize? I was going to ask what software we use.
So we do, we give Ocean State Transit a CSV, and they have the formula that's built out, and then they use the Versatran platform to create the bus routes. So they develop it based on the criteria that we set with like route distances, and then we review those routes and make any changes that need to be made.
So then my follow-up would be, you know, do you take into account ride-ship data, driver feedback, you know, to make sure they're optimized for efficiency, and how often are those evaluated? You know, even traffic pattern.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the routes every year, you know, and make adjustments as we need to. And I mean, traffic, I don't even know what to say about that because.
Now, I was looking for, can we be provided that information on the bus routes for
Sure.
both in district and out of district? You take that into account, like, you know, because in particular, I was recently told about a situation where someone that was driving students out of district, that they have drop-off times, 2 students in 2 different locations in 2 different cities at the same drop-off. So, you know, that was just a concern that was recently brought up. So that's what triggered all.
Yeah, I mean, we can look into it if you have a specific circumstance too, we can look into that.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item.
Update on numbers and details on maintenance trucks, Mr. Ferrera.
Yes, I put that on the agenda for tonight's, just to have a discussion on it. To see if we could look into labeling the back of our box trucks with the East Providence school facilities. And then whatever trucks we use for Chartwells, so we could start to separate, what the trucks are used for. The reason that is, I've received some complaints from residents, some other city workers, and some of the teachers that reached out to me that there's reasons that trucks are parked at our schools for hours, which would be our electrician trucks, which would be our plumbing vehicles, when they see there's no way to decipher one vehicle from another. So I think it's a good idea that these trucks are labeled. So if we have the plumber working at a school for 6 hours, if somebody's concerned who it is, they would know it's a plumber that's there. It's not a maintenance guy's there for 6 hours. And I just put that up there for discussion to see if we could look into labeling the back doors with the number and the East Providence School Department, and hopefully get a little more productivity out of them going forwards.
Tony, are you looking for the trucks to specifically say plumbing, electrician, so on and so forth on the truck itself?
Yes, that way.
Say
Exactly.
the word plumbing, plumber, electrician.
Exactly,
Okay.
electrician on that there, yes.
Through to the chair, can I ask if, do our school department vehicles have GPS devices on them? I know our city vehicles do.
I don't believe they do. No.
No, they do not. But it was requested that they all be numbered, and they have been numbered. And as far as the Chartwell's truck, we're waiting for the decals to be done so that we can put those on.
Through the chair. I'm thinking before I speak, because sometimes I speak without thinking. So like, if Danny's number 1 on the truck, are we to know that Danny's number 1? Are we going to get a piece of paper that says Danny's truck is number 1, so that if any of my constituents want to know why number 1 was at Oldham all day, I can say, is that how we're going to, like, are we going to assign the truck numbers to individuals?
No, just the number is, the reason the trucks should have numbers is for maintenance reasons. When you turn in a truck, you don't think it's truck 5 that needs tires, it's truck
Right.
1. That's the same. The back of the door would be labeled East Providence School Department, Plumbing Division, East Providence Electrical Division, East Providence Maintenance Division, East Providence Painting Division. You know what I'm saying? So as these trucks are traveling, people recognize what vehicle is going from where to where, different hours of the day and stuff like that. The numbers are just for maintenance reasons. In other words, say our painting trucks.
Yep.
Our painter goes in the same truck every day unless he's snow removal. This is our painting vehicle.
Right.
Plumbers take the same vehicles out there because that's the plumbing.
So I'm going to go back to what Tabitha said. I got to trust that my people are doing the right thing. I mean, I really do. And I guess if there are examples that they're not, that's what needs to be discussed up here. I mean, we're just tagging our employees.
No, we're not, it's accountability. Call it.
Well, accountability is doing their job, in my opinion. Accountability is you're doing your job. You're not doing your job, then we have a bigger problem. You didn't show up and go paint. Then we have a bigger problem than whether or not you were supposed to go up and paint. Like, I don't want to be like, okay, well, I'm going to use Mr. Watson because he's retired. Mr. Watson was truck 5 today, and I saw him at his house. Like, well, that's a discussion. That's a discussion with his boss. Again, we are a group of 5 people who make decisions. Not one of us can dictate to administration.
I agree. That's why I put it up for discussion. If
Okay, definitely.
if we don't want to do it,
No, I like the numbers on the back, like you said, for maintenance. Number 5's going into the thing. Number 3 needs to be worked on. License plate 5321 needs to go see Ford. Like, I understand that, but to put a truck with a person and tag them like that so that the constituents in our area and our taxpayers know where they are, That would be like telling them what room every teacher is in the high school and what room they're supposed to be in and when they have lunch and breaks. I just, that's my discussion and I'm going to step away from that now.
Danny, do each maintenance man, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, they don't use the same truck every day, right? Johnny uses it on Monday, maybe Billy uses it on Tuesday. Is that how that works?
So typically our tradesmen use the same truck because they have all their tools in it every day. It does vary though. If a truck needs, like, if it needs maintenance, say if truck 70 is off the road, you might take 14 that day. It does vary. We do food deliveries sometimes on Fridays where we have to get out of pickup trucks.
Right.
So it might be truck 92. So you might see another truck going around the district. So every day is different. And then like when it comes to snowstorm, it depends on who you come in, who comes into the snowstorm. So if I have, say, one of my guys that drives truck 88, but he didn't come into the snowstorm. Now I got another guy. It varies. It depends on the task that's at hand. One day we're moving furniture, but the next day we need to come to pick up leaves.
Right.
That same guy could be driving, 4 different numbered trucks in a week.
Tony, my question's for you. Has our trucks in the past ever had those plumbing decals? In other words, letting you know that that's what that means.
I would say, Dan, I think we labeled the trucks about 6 years ago, maybe.
So they
Ago, I
they
think.
have a number on the bottom of the door, on the fender, and now smack dab right in the middle of the door, I put big 6-inch numbers with all the same match number. They do say facilities on the doors. They're basically a rolling billboard. They don't say anything on the back door besides they don't say like kind of like Brown University had.
Yep.
We can certainly do that. It's not a big deal, but if the electrician has to have an oil change, then another truck.
Yeah,
Electrical on 5 trucks.
Yeah, it's nothing about the individual. It's just like you said, Brown. All professional corporations operate like that. It's accountability. Nothing to do with the driver. It's that it has nothing tint the windows. It's about a vehicle, where it's at, what it's doing, what's the accountability for the vehicle. It has nothing to do with the drivers.
True.
And like I said, just it's not. I put on for discussion, like Danny's explaining. It's not that I want this. I just think that Danny mentioned there's a lot of other the colleges, professional industries. They all have that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's better accountability for what our guys are dealing with, what they're doing. More accountability, who's doing what, when they're doing it. It's not about the driver itself. There.
Through the
We
chair.
also do have a sign out sheet that we implemented during COVID when people were taking certain trucks during the pandemic. We can certainly bring that back.
Yeah.
Even still, even happen.
Through the chair. I just think it's commonplace, even within our own city, our trucks are labeled. That's all I wanted to say.
And just I can bring up, and I mentioned to Sandy this. And these are only. It has nothing to do with the man. It's all about productivity and getting as much as we can for the taxpayer's dollar. In other words, when I was with the guys about 3 weeks ago, it was the gentleman that went into Kent Heights to work on the air conditioning. We only had a 6-foot ladder there. Why he didn't have an 8-foot ladder in that truck? So he drives to Kent Heights, gets out to work on an air conditioner on the ceiling. He doesn't have an 8-foot ladder. He's got to get back in the truck, drive all the way back to the maintenance shop to pick up an 8-foot ladder. If anybody up here thinks that that's good productivity, I couldn't survive 42 years in business, and business wouldn't be in business if they did that. It's all about accountability for the truck. Make sure if that HVAC guy has a truck, none of his tools are taken out of it. So when he gets a task, gets a work ticket, he goes to the job, everything is in it. That's all I'm trying to accomplish. From what I've seen and what I hear from our guys, I'm just trying to put something together based on what I'm hearing to make it more comfortable for everybody to work. That's we can turn it around and look like it's, you know, if we want to track them or not. Tony brought up about track because the truck's got GPS in them. I don't think I would ever support that because now that's pinpointing exactly. I'm not looking to pinpoint. I'm looking to make it more comfortable, guys knowing their tools. We got excellent tradesmen and trying to get just that little bit more out of every working day. That's all this is about. That's what I believe in. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Next item.
Discussion, missing parts on the heating system at the high school, Mr. Ferrera.
This was, a discussion that we're gonna, now this is a discussion. Danny, can you enlighten us where we're at and give us a little bit of a story, I guess we would say, about over $100,000 worth the HVAC missing parts on a heating system that requires one of our individuals to spend 2 to 3 hours during the winter trying to program a computer. And for what I'm being told, some guys going on the roof and opening and closing dampers.
So we are not going on the roof, open and close the dampers. Sometimes the units have to be reset due to static. So we had Corel Controls come out a while back in October. So they came out and they quoted us this $90,000. So after discussing with the OPM and some engineers, it seems that everything that on this list is an add-on to what we already have. You don't need it. It's not proprietary to the system to make the system work properly. It's basically putting, buying a car and putting nicer rims on. It's just bringing it up to to put damper actuators on the bypass wheel. I mean, that just allows air to go by your the bypass wheel. And we had Corel come out and reset the system about a month ago, and we have not had a single problem since they reset the computer system that was causing issues. So it would basically increase the efficiency a little bit, but nothing to where you gas savings. Anything with that, if you'd like to discuss it further, I'm sure we could, money wise, and we want to proceed with it.
Would it eliminate an individual spending 2 and 3 hours a day with a laptop trying to get this system working to the level it is?
No, because no one's doing that.
Oh, nobody's doing that? Oh, all right. Nobody's doing that.
Because I would be doing it.
All right.
Danny, so are you now saying that we don't need $100,000 worth of parts?
No, it's simply an add-on. The system works exactly how it was designed. This is just it was an add-on from what the engineers and OPMs have told me, that this is an add-on and a reset of the whole system that doesn't need to be done. They came in, they charged us about $3,000 to reset what we needed reset, but nowhere near this $90,000.
I guess I must have misunderstood you 5 months ago, though, because I thought it was stated to us that this was a necessity, something that we needed. I don't know if you remember that conversation that we had. I think it was me, Tony, and Manny Venatero.
And it was 2 other people.
Unless I misunderstood it, I thought this was a necessity, something that we needed.
And that's where I came up with the word missing parts, because that's what I was told. We're missing over $100,000 worth of parts up there. I don't go to bed and dream about this stuff.
Through the chair, if I can ask, was this, just to flip this around and look at it from a different way, was this a cost saving measure and that's why they didn't go with the upgraded version at the time? I wasn't there at the time, so I don't know. So, okay, so I'm wondering if this just was a cost saving measure and that, maybe it was recommended initially and.
Like, we could have brought the premium model and tuned it down, but the system that we have works completely fine. We're not having any issues with it. Like I said, this is complete add-ons to the bypass wheel. It's just a recirculation wheel that looks like a round radiator that spins and catches the warm air. runs it back. So when that's running, if it becomes a little too hot, all it does is open the side door. So they want,
So to Tony's point, if you don't automate this, it would be manually done.
you don't have to because they're just not there now. All that would do is open it and close.
Okay, but then how is it a upgrade if it's if
That's
it
why I'm
would,
saying it's not. They're unnecessary.
Nobody on a laptop adjusting the heat in his building
I mean,
at high school.
we go on the laptop. I mean, you could have a teacher say they're cold. You know, you got one person in one room that's cold, one person hot. That's always going to, you know, you're going to adjust it accordingly. But
There's no,
what, spending 2 or 3 hours a day on a laptop? No.
but if we had these pots, we would still have to use the laptop and,
Regardless.
all right.
If the temperature changes 5 degrees and you get too much static pressure, anything can go haywire electronically. You have low static, high static, and a lot of the static sensors are tied to the fire alarm, so that would set the fire alarm off. Anything that's not tied to the fire alarm could be altered. Thank you.
Next item.
discussion, 3-inch gap around the Olo ceiling, Mr. Ferrera?
Which would, somebody would like to enlighten me on why that's not done 2 years later? And I'll explain what that is. When we put the windows in it, at all of the old windows were 8 inches wide, the new windows are 5 inches wide. That leaves a 3-inch gap at the top of every window that just goes into the metal deck on the roof. It equates to almost leaving a classroom window open 24 hours a day. I brought this up over 2 years ago. When we first started doing the project, we came up with a plan that we were gonna go forwards with. We did about 8 feet in the hallway, and I get calls about these things. That's why I put these on it, because it was an issue 2 years ago. It was supposed to be done at Christmas week. It was supposed to be done last summer. Here it is 2 years later. We're losing massive amounts of heat through a gap. We had another company go in there and pay them $100,000 to revamp the windows. They did a great job with it. And then I get phone calls that they never fixed the gap around the building.
So that wasn't in their spec. That was actually a design flaw, which you can see right here.
Yeah.
So that trim that comes across on the ceiling meets the outside frame of the window. So the glass on the window is inset about 3 inches from that frame, which allows you to just basically stick your hand up in there.
Where my hand was up.
So I've been talking with the architect, and I actually had the fire department out there the other day to give me an idea of what the idea that I had come up with the aluminum that we had put there before.
Yes.
The fire department they're saying that it's not sufficient enough for fire protection. So we would have to put either some kind of blown in insulation foam or rock wool on top of that. So I reached back out to the architects at Studio Jade. So they're coming up between them and the fire department, coming up with a more proper solution for fire protection. That's what we're looking at now.
The question is, why are we looking at that now? And why haven't we looked at that over the last 2 years? We're looking at it now because I put it on the agenda? Absolutely. Let's call a spade a spade. And just to say, your idea worked very well because we did it over at White Neck. So I don't know how we got away with it White Neck when we did the windows there. I don't know if you're aware of that.
White Neck, the detail is completely different. And we didn't do White Neck. It was Silver Spring.
No. White Neck has it, Danny. When I say White Neck has the same aluminum gap, let's not get into it. When I say White Neck has the same windows put in there, the old windows it took out. Danny, when I say it's the same thing, it's the same thing. I know we did Silver Spring. I'm saying when
I thought you were talking about.
No, when we did White Neck, we did it. So what I'm saying is, my question is, why is it 2 years later that ceiling is still open like that? If it's, especially now, you just said that it's a fire issue.
So we had firewalks before and had never come up with the fire department. So I personally called in the fire marshal the other day to specifically look at that spot. So I mean, we've gone through three fire marshals.
Yep.
So everyone has to.
Absolutely.
It's basically based on someone else's opinion at this point.
Danny, do you have a time frame as to when this will be complete?
So I had come up with the idea a while back. And we lost our carpenter, and he was still out. So at this point, I mean, it's very tedious to do the way I put it together. It would probably be an all summer project, at least. We could possibly get it done this summer once I get specs back from the fire department. It's not really an expensive fix, but I would say over the summer we could definitely do it. We have to take down all the shades to put it in.
Could you let us know when you get the specs back?
Yep.
And Danny, while we're working on that, can we we'll call it the pinch point with the kids' hands in the hallways that we didn't address them yet, neither can we address them as well? That was where we had the same gap between the pole.
Oh, you're
And
talking about the pole in between.
Exactly, and we were gonna pay somebody like $7,000 to do that, and me, you, and Chris Murphy went over, we're gonna put a pressure treater behind there, fasten it, paint it gray, call it a day. 2 years later, that's still not done, can we add that to the same? And I'm not here beating anybody up, Danny, what I'm saying is, these are the calls that I'm getting. Why ain't it done, Mrs. Fred? I don't know, I don't work for the school system. But when I go back and I look at it, and then I say, well, can't you get it done? It's been 2 years. This is what I'm trying to say. These are the type of things that I get phone calls from. And now I'm going to put them on the agenda. We can discuss them like this, hold people responsible for it, and we just get them done. What I would love you to do is to try to put a cost analysis to it, bring it to the next meeting, see if we can help come up with the money. Because all of these things are not being done and we're not telling the truth is because of money. That's why they're not done. We got to start telling, and I'm not blaming you, Danny. I'm just saying, we all sit up here as 5. This is a whole district. We have a serious money issue, but we can't be doing these projects and taking $5, $10, $15,000 and just not finishing the project. And I'm not blaming you. I'm not here to blame anybody. I'm just looking for answers to say, the only answer that I come up with a lot of this is money. That falls on our shoulders to try to come up with more money for the district. Whether that means we put 80 items on there at this budget talk to give it to the city. They've been great with this when we give them line items. That's what my goal was. Let's put 80 items, 100 items, put a dollar amount, see if we can get one-time spending to get these done. But if we just keep turning a blind eye to them, they're never going to get done. And our buildings don't get better by themselves. They get better by us sitting up here and the great staff of, maintenance guys that we have and our true tradesmen that we got out there. But we have to do a better job supporting them. That's the only thing I'm trying to do. People are going to spin this. I'm picking on everybody. I got big shoulders. I really don't care. I'm doing this for our kids, for our teachers. We have great tradesmen. We have a serious money issue. We have to try to work with everybody to solve that little bit of a gap. And I think we can do it. If we're all on the same page, we can do it. That's what I'm trying to take the lead on and get everybody involved with it, Dan. So it's nothing against you, Chris.
So the window project, in the long run, with what we went, it was getting the window sealed from the outside. That thing's, well, I should say, the pinch point that you're saying, cosmetics almost. The loss of a carpenter to the kind of been a killer. So that project kind of and the intricacy of bending the metal.
You know, I would run with this, but here
I
we
mean-
could go see our friend Tom Gallagher, but he's already shut us down on a couple of items.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would, like I said, that's where at some point I love to get them, young men involved with that. If we need, picture having, 200 pieces of metal bent and they could do it at the shop and then our guys transport it. That's a goal that we should be looking for, down the road.
So the poles in the hallways, I mean, there's only, I think, four.
Yes, yeah.
So that's something we can take care of. That's no problem. As for the fixed. I know I had brought that up previously, and I had come up with that. You've seen that I put that in.
Exactly, yep.
So once I just found out, it's more so the fire department at this point, because I know the fix. It's just what they want on top of it.
All right, Danny, thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Schedule to clean ducts in the cafeteria and gyms at all our schools, Mr. Ferrara.
And we have an update when the last time our ducts in the cafeteria and our lunchroom were cleaned.
So we clean them, 2 to 3 times a year. The next will be June, obviously, because we're getting to the end of the school year. We went through and just cleaned all the filters and everything in February. So I have a whole summertime work schedule of every month and dates and weeks all throughout the summer of what school's going to get cleaned, what's going to happen at what school, belts, univents. We're going to install the 4 univents that we have shop at White Neck at school, checking glycol levels, and intakes, ceiling fan, everything will be done.
You know what I'm gonna say to that? That's not acceptable. I don't mean to laugh because I got pictures in my phone right now that I actually have debris falling on kids while they're eating. These are the calls that I'm getting from teachers, and when I go out and look at them after hours for certain reasons, and I can snap pictures of debris falling off them 2-foot round ductworks, and I got flags that got debris falling off them, I disagree with you. And I'm not here beating you up, Danny, but once again, I'm tired of getting these calls. I'm tired. It's not my job. It's not my job is to get things done when my teachers call me. And I got pictures. When I get called and I go there, I don't just listen to them. I listen to them. I go do what I do, and I take pictures. So if somebody says, Mr. Ferrer, I think you're lying, I can just take my phone out and I can punch up a whole list load of pictures
Through the chair.
on that.
Go ahead, Jess.
Tony, would you mind sharing those photos with the superintendent so that she can send them via email to me or in the rest and everyone? Because that's very disturbing to me. And I would like to see that. So when you would get them, you send them in a JPEG or whatever, and something that is easily looked at so I can look at them. And on that note, I'm going to go back to what Tony said about the 3-inch gap around Orlo ceiling. That's a fire hazard. So let's try to fix that as soon as possible. I also just want to ask the chairman, did you set up a facilities subcommittee?
I did.
Has the subcommittee, this is perfect for the subcommittee. These items would be perfectly discussed at a subcommittee and then put on our agenda, like under building committee report, a subcommittee report, and you could instead of discussion action items, so that then that whole report, you guys could talk about it, and then we can figure out, the 5 of us then can figure out the finance part and what needs to be done from these facilities meetings, instead of just, Tony, I'm gonna be rude a little bit and I'm apologizing, but to keep saying, Danny, we're not putting you down, but we're not putting you down. But when you usually say that to somebody, it means you're putting them down. And
If I was gonna put them down, I go.
I know, but people in the,
right.
I know what you think,
Jess has the mic right now.
but people in the audience don't think that. People in our school system doesn't think that. And we don't know how Danny feels about it. And right now, I'm just saying, I would love, I was not chosen to be on the facilities subcommittee, so I don't know if you've had meetings or not. But if you have, I think this, or if you haven't, just coming from my years of experience here, I would think that these are the things that you should discuss, and then discuss ways to fix it, and then bring it to us as a report, under the report, for the money issues, because that's what we can do. I mean, we can't even sit here and tell him, because this is just a discussion item, let's find the money. But I'm agreeing with you on this. We do I've been with you when we've done this. We've gone under, but the idea that we really can't do anything under discussion except for just saying it to the public, but we could say it under a public a different way. If you think it's because we're hiding stuff, it doesn't need to be, it still could be a report based on the facilities subcommittee where you guys come up with ideas how to fix this and why it hasn't been fixed. And then we meet as a body and we say, okay, we got a problem and we want it fixed immediately. Let's move the money around because that's what we can do. Again, this is just my experience and I'm just trying to help along because, again, we are a school committee and I know we are in charge of school, but it hurts my heart to see that there's really no education on here tonight. So, thank you.
Yes,
Go ahead, Tony.
yes, and I respect what you said, and that was my goal that we started, that it was gonna start when I mentioned it, Tony, and I've been working with Jess. I didn't want to go any further with this. The goal that I was gonna do is what we did about 5 or 6 years ago. Sandy was on it when we went through the buildings. Building by Sharon was there with the set. We went room by room by room. We did a very good audit through every classroom. That was the goal that I wanted to do for the district. I talked to Dave about it, compile it all together, make 10 copies of it. The school committee gets one, discuss all of that. I didn't want to go further until we had the policy to see where I am. That's why I brought up earlier, like if I was to go into a school, say tomorrow night, and the doors are all locked, where does that leave me? Calling Sandy to say, can you open this door? Can you open that door? Everything what you just said, Jess, is professionally said, and it's how to bring any entity to a really good spot. Until we get all the information, without blaming anybody, we got to get all the information. We have to put dollar amounts on it, put time frames on it, and then we say, how can we gather some of this money? All of the other parts are really good, but without having the list, where do we go with it? How do we create a list? I'm creating a list on a lot of what teachers are calling me for. That's
Tony, I've got a list also of what teachers and staff and parents are calling me over, and one spoke tonight, and we got issues too that aren't just facilities, and they are education, and we have, oh God help me for saying this, we have a president right now who doesn't want to educate some of our students the way that they're educating, but everyone knows how I feel about this. So my problem is I want to educate everyone in our schools the same way, and that might not happen. And we may have issues. We may lose funding for certain things. We may lose money. And I agree that this is important 100%. I just think it would have been much better off having, and I'm assuming you did not discuss this at the last facilities meeting, right? Or, no, okay, oh.
That's why I had asked Dave if we could check with him.
Okay.
If we can change that for late. The last two I haven't been able to met.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can leave work, other times I can't. 10 o'clock in the morning, a lot of times it's tough for me to leave.
Tony, you are the facilities committee. You choose when you meet. That's the best part of you being this facilities. Just like when I was policy, you just pick when you meet. You pick when it's best for you and then make the other people meet you. That's what you do. It's the power you get for sitting up here. It might be the only one, but it's what you get. You get to decide when the meeting is.
All right, so, excuse me. Dr.
Yes.
Fran, we had a conversation, right? And you were willing to discuss accommodations for the facilities meeting, correct?
Yep, the meeting is currently the first Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. I'm fine with whatever works for the two school committee members on the committee. We can rearrange that time. All the other people on the committee are district employees, so.
Say if there's any way later in the day would be ideal, like always leave work, you know what I'm saying? It's at 8 or 9 in the morning. I can't get started. Then by the time I get started at 11 or 12, like if we can make them, 2 in the afternoon, that's what I don't want to inconvenience, but if we could do that, that'd be a great help.
Well, we also got to make sure that that works for
Yeah.
Tony as well.
If we could do it towards the end of the day, so that'll be our last, for them, that'll be our last.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we can research something
You-
like that.
You tell me the time and the day. I may have to adjust by the week because we have a lot of standing afternoon meetings, but
I
I'll
want to look at that and get back to us. see if there's any conflict.
Like a policy meeting time, like 3:40,
No, it could be 3.
3 o'clock, 3:30, okay,
It's just something a little later.
okay. And I'll look for a day when we don't have a standing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Next item.
Consider a vote to approve fiscal year 2023 audit.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
We just got this. We're not gonna, I couldn't read it all on my phone. Did anyone read it all on their email? I mean, it's a lot of work. So can Craig come up here? Because I mean, I trust him. I mean, you mind?
No, absolutely not.
I just saying, we just got this, I mean, tonight. I trust you wholeheartedly.
You
So
know, I think, you know, Dave hit the important points. So we had a small surplus of 56,000. So there really, you know, what Dave didn't say was basically it was a clean audit. There really wasn't anything of significant to note other than the timeliness of the closeout of the fiscal year, which is a common theme that we always have. And that's it.
and the only comment that I just want to make is he did make a point to say, and it is in our pamphlet, you know, that they would like to have a potential fund deficit
Policy.
but what happens is that's illegal. We can't really work in a deficit. So we can have a policy, but then we're breaking the law anyway.
It would just be a matter of the policy committee taking the state law, because the state law is very clear in terms of the process and what needs to happen. The policy committee could certainly take that up and adopt a policy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that. Craig, through the chair. Craig, just to confirm, there wasn't any concerning findings in the audit? I just want to.
You would have already known about it. So,
Thank you.
and just since I'm up here, I really need to give credit to Mike Hubert, our controller, who is just great. And really does a tremendous job for us. And I'm very grateful to have him.
Thank you.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Announcements.
I just want to make through the chair, sorry. I just want to make one announcement. It should have come under the EPLAC report, but I'm going to make it now. The EPLAC recognition evening is going to be April 10th, much earlier than usual. It is a Thursday. Invitations will follow, but we're not going to invite the whole kit and caboodle because we're on a very tight budget this year. So it's going to be a little different than normal, but we promise to have a wonderful, amazing time like we always have. The nominations have come in and the judging has happened. So the winners and the people who wrote we'll find out soon by Logan, our chair. And that is it. I think our next meeting, we are having somebody help me. There's people in here that can help me. We're having Dr. Dana is coming. It will be phenomenal, I promise. So if you have nothing to do on Tuesday, the 25th, it will be at Kent Heights School, starting at 6 o'clock, and Dr. Dana will be putting on. Can't remember what it's called, but a project. So yes, sorry. Thank you.
Anyone else have any other announcements they'd like to make?
Tomorrow night at the Weaver Library at 5 o'clock, there is an open night of a gallery showcase of sorts for selected students throughout our district. And I will be there. I don't have all the exact details except for the opening night starts at 5 o'clock tomorrow at the Weaver Library. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to celebrate some of our young artists in our district.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you to everybody who came out. Good night.